we just launched a new educational platform called Dchained, which is really focused on providing foundational base for either those who are already existing investors in crypto and just want to expand their horizons, or the whole bunch of new investors who are starting to eye cryptocurrency as a potential investment vehicle.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi, and welcome to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nusky. It's so wonderful to be back with you. It's great to have 2 feet and a heartbeat. And, today we're going to be talking about a topic that I have loved since the very beginning. But we're going to speak about this with Mr. Edmund McCormack. Welcome to the show, Edmund.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you. Now, as I mentioned, we were talking about cryptocurrency off the call earlier, and right now with the pandemic and everything that's happening with the world, and people are really not opening their wallets too much, are they?
No, especially here in the U.S., where the epidemic has really taken a really massive toll on the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. With that being said, cryptocurrency is, not too far from the front of our mind, should I say, in terms of could this be an option for me? And I'd love to talk about that as part of the core of the call. But I think what we should do first, so to give some context about you and your wonderful organisation, Dchained, talk a little bit about where you are and what got you to be where you are today.
Yeah, so as you alluded to, we just launched a new educational platform called Dchained, which is really focused on providing a foundational base for either those who are already existing investors in crypto and just want to expand their horizons, or the whole bunch of new investors who are starting to eye cryptocurrency as a potential investment vehicle. So what we want to do is give them the foundations that they need, some analysis and guides to help them steer them in the right direction, and then ultimately, connect them with other like-minded investors so that they can collaborate. Which, at the end of the day, is sort of the missing piece that I think I've seen.
Absolutely. I mean, there's lots to learn, isn't there? Before we jump into some of the questions I have around crypto, I'd love to learn a little bit about, I guess, your career path that led you to this point. What's your background?
Sure. Yeah, so I've done about 14 years in the tech and media space, mostly large corporation type companies, and this was always something that I've wanted to do. I joined crypto. I got into the space in late 2013, which was, if you know the timeline, was around the debacle of Mt. Gox, which almost put a pin in all the excitement around Bitcoin, and with that, having seen sort of the ebbs and flows of this space, and a lot of the excitement that it drew a couple of years ago during the last bull run, which, if you've been in it for a while and you remember sort of, it was a dirty word when you talked about crypto. People thought that you were doing illegal things on Silk Road. You were hiring assassins or buying drugs. So
I knew word.
Well, that's my side gig. And to see people embracing it and see people starting to look at it as for what it is, which is a way to really connect the world in a way that we're not right now. The internet has been phenomenal in terms of providing a communication vehicle, a way for businesses to operate, including mine. But the fact of the matter is that we've also never been so disconnected at the same time. The internet that we go on here in the U.S. and I would imagine in Australia is a very different internet that other places in the world, such as China, such as the Middle East, are going on. So to have a means of not only connecting people a little bit more seamlessly, but to also be able to provide services like banking to 2 billion people who don't have access to banks. It's phenomenal. So of course there's always the attention around the monetary and the economic benefits, but socially as well, it's such a transformative opportunity, and we're really at the cusp of it. Even though we're so early on, it's exciting to see a lot of the development that's going on, and sort of the eyes that are paying attention to it. And my grandfather the other day asked me about Ethereum, and I mean, almost gave me a heart attack because
It's just not their space typically, is it?
no, he owns an AOL email address, so it was shocking. But yeah, it's really exciting to see,
Yeah,
and really
absolutely.
exciting to see like who's interested,
Yeah.
and that's really been sort of the most eye-opening part of this whole experience, where we thought we built it for the millennial type of audience who
Hmm.
has been very has one foot already in the digital world since childhood.
Yeah.
They've seen sort of those safe havens like the housing market, like the stock market, uh, take a pretty significant pullback in the last 10 years.
Hmm.
And we expected that they were going to be really interested. But what's been really interesting, and really I'm so excited about it, is starting to see baby boomers starting to join the platform, starting to ask questions. They're the most active in the group, which I'm couldn't be more excited about.
I think we should provide a bit of an educational experience here because, after all, yours is a crypto literacy network about
That's
education. I wonder if we can go back and really simplify it from the very beginning. What was the genesis of crypto? Where did this come from?
So it came from a white paper from a unknown author named Satoshi Nakamoto.
Hmm.
And Satoshi, whoever he, they, she is, we still don't know definitively.
Hmm.
Um, what he created, or what Satoshi created, was two things. One was what we know today as blockchain, as a means of creating a distributed ledger. And I'm going to sort of break down that terminology because that's what really Dchained is all about. It's to eliminate a lot of the jargon that can be intimidating for people.
Yeah.
But creating, think of a Google Doc, okay? And Google Doc, compared to if you were to get, a Microsoft Word file, it allows everybody at the same time to see what's going on in that document. The one difference is that when a change happens, it's unalterable.
That's a big word.
So it's tongue twister, especially for 9:15 at night here. Um, so it's a way of providing full transparency, full access to a world of connected computers with some added features on top of that, like cryptography, which in layman's terms is just a way of using mathematical algorithms with different types of safeguards to make sure that everything that you put into that block of data is encrypted and is verified and secure. And that's really ultimately what blockchain, if I had to sort of break it down very
Yeah.
easily,
Yeah.
is. And then with that, sort of the pairing was the currency, Bitcoin, which most people are familiar with, and that being a store of value and a means of being able to actually utilize that distributed network of computers.
That's wonderful. Thank you for breaking it down so simply. I listened to this and I think to myself, only just recently we've seen a number of coins go out of circulation in Australia, at least, and I suspect the same would be occurring globally as value diminishes or changes. At least we start to move away from the paper currency more into the plastic currency, the credit cards, etc. Do you think that ultimately we will be a cashless society completely?
Yeah, I thought we would be a cashless society already.
Hmm.
The fact is, here in the U.S., the majority of transactions are still cash. Other parts in the world, like China, like India, it's
Hmm.
almost entirely cash. I think, with some of, the practices that are going on by different governments, if you look at, countries like Argentina, where they've had such an issue with inflation, countries like Venezuela, where there's different, you know, different levels of currency, going from white, gray, to black. I think it's becoming inevitable as we get more connected that countries are starting to look at a digital form, and that's where you're starting to see, the what's called the the central bank digital currency, which is an extension of your paper money. Countries are seeing that they need to be able to have a legal tender in the digital world, and I'm hoping that that's ultimately where we go, because it not only gives people more accountability and sort of greater visibility in terms of how they're spending their money, the whole process of how you receive the product that you have. So from farm to table, how your tomatoes arrived at in your living room or your kitchen. I think it offers a tremendous amount of value, and I'm definitely underplaying it, in sort of in that analysis. But I think with a lot of, well, first of all, where most of the economic practices are being done, especially in most developed countries, you're seeing a greater adoption rates towards digital currencies as a viable alternative. And I put out a newsletter yesterday talking about best country that really shows that is Mexico, where the issue of hyperinflation with opaque regulation, with issues with the banking system, has led to a boom from a group that really wasn't leading the way in crypto 3, 4, 5 years ago. So I thought we'd be there already. I thought that we would be mostly a plastic economy, but I think that this could potentially leapfrog us into that space.
Change the world we live in. This is wonderful insight. Thank you. I often think to myself about governance. I also think about that in terms of there's taxation systems involved and in our current economic structure. How do you see governance, overarching governance, coming into play here in terms of taking their piece of the pie?
I was talking to a CPA today about that. So it's a little bit more cut and dry when you're looking at the established centralized exchanges. You look at Gemini, you look at Coinbase, KuCoin, Kraken. These are companies that have a board of directors, employees, have a country of operation. Where things get a little bit interesting are the decentralized exchanges, and this is in the same concept of having a decentralized ledger. These exchanges, also known as DeFi, which is really starting to pump up the price on platforms like Ethereum, there is no one that owns it. There's not one individual that you could point to and say, that's the owner of it. And that makes things a little bit interesting, even where governments are starting to onboard consultants and experts to help alleviate any tax evasion, or trying to incorporate different types of regulation. It becomes a little bit more difficult as it becomes more decentralized. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because it offers more freedoms, but at the same time, in doing so, that could also hinder the adoption of sort of the space in general.
It wasn't that long ago that I actually used my Bitcoin and whatever else I had in my coffers to pay for utility bills. There are lots of platforms that are allowing us to do this already. Are you seeing providers adopting crypto and blockchain more and more?
I am, and you're seeing, even when you create a website through a Squarespace, a Wix, WordPress, there are a number of options that you could choose where somebody who is not tech savvy could very easily set up the system in place to receive it. Now, am I willing to part ways with my Bitcoin right now to pay? Absolutely not. But you can definitely do it if you want it.
Yeah, absolutely. I also see a lot of different platforms. I'd love to talk a little bit, if we could, Edmund, about the
Sure.
actual, I guess, the trading space. You talked about KuCoin and other platforms. Just to give a bit of perspective, please share how many different types of crypto there are and why this makes a difference to investors.
So the short answer is there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of crypto. And the word crypto is pretty broad because it incorporates, the mega coins, which a lot of people are familiar with, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Tether. But what's also has sort of been introduced to the space over the last 5 years are these coins that are used to develop on top of the blockchain, which is initial coin offerings. And what's interesting about them is that people buy them in hopes that that coin that they buy, that utility
Mm-hmm.
on that blockchain, on that protocol, will be worth more. So, for example, if somebody wanted to buy um, Ocean, and I love Ocean. And if you're not familiar, uh, it's a protocol that is built around the idea of decentralizing data
Yeah.
so that artificial intelligence can learn more, but at the same time gives the data owner um, a lot more control over holding that data. And by no means is this an endorsement of Ocean,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, in terms of buying Ocean, which is on top of Ethereum, so Ethereum is the foundation of the house, and Ocean are the walls. It's it's funding this project, which in hopes will help us, enrich lives because of artificial intelligence. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, when you know that so those walls, that protocol starts to build out and operate as the price of Ocean, that token that you buy goes up, it's worth more, and the value ultimately as an early adopter is beneficial to you.
Having been fortunate to have experienced initial coin offerings myself,
Mm.
Edmund, there are a lot of data points, I guess, they provide in their papers where they initially come forward with an offer. And one that I recall personally, I don't recall the name, but it was to do with the shipping industry. And I invested in that, and it appreciated, but it fluctuates as does anything in the markets. So, what are some of the big movers and shakers that you are involved with now? You've talked about Ocean. What other, like more transport oriented and I guess general services oriented platforms that are exciting you at the moment?
Services. It's a good question. Well, foundation. I've been invested in Ethereum and Bitcoin for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and fundamentally, uh, uh, that's something that I believe in. I believe in the value of Bitcoin more as a currency than a blockchain at this point, but Ethereum, really as a next generation world computer, and that's how they market themselves. When it comes to shipping, well, logistics, I should say. You know, I'm not involved in as many as I mean, I find a lot of them fascinating, but where I put my own money is
Mm-hmm.
is in
Different
a
field.
limited few.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I try to not spread myself too thin,
Mm-hmm.
but there are protocols out there that are very interesting. I actually had a conversation with CEO of a company called EventChain, and he was talking about Komodo. And Komodo uh, it is blockchain built on blockchains.
Mm-hmm.
And what's unique about this is that every blockchain, even if the rest of Ethereum changes and uh, Komodo is no longer compatible for whatever reason, and the developers have a falling out with Vitalik Buterin, who's the founder of Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
It lives in perpetuity, and it's built on to provide extra layers of scalability, and it's built on to provide extra layers of um, operability, but at the same time, it's self-sufficient. So uh, those types of developments are very interesting. I'm much more, at least personally, interested in um, development around data, development around privacy. Has to do with a lot of sort of my career.
Yeah.
Having spent earlier part of this decade, a number of years at Apple, and being in advertising world where data privacy is everything. That's personally interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I could tell you, different protocols like Tron and Waves,
Tron.
which I can't talk enough about those guys.
Yeah.
So,
I sit here and I think to myself, when this massive rush for GPUs was going out because people were mining Ethereum and Bitcoin and the likes early on in the day, you couldn't buy a graphics card for your computer if you wanted to. Tell us a little bit about what was going on behind there and how people are actually mining this crypto. What's that all about?
yeah, so mining is a very resource exhaustive process. The idea of mining is you are, and going back to the part about GPU, you would have these volunteers. And I use volunteer because they're not rewarded until they crack the algorithm itself.
Yeah.
But you run these very exhaustive rigs, and it's essentially either you're running it yourself, it's a supercomputer in essence, and it's generally at this point it's like a farm, or you're joining a pool of other people who are sharing their CPU usage. And the idea there is knowing that the transaction that is occurring that wants to be added to the block is protected by two numeric strings that in order to find the last one involves a tremendous amount of mathematical computations and algorithms in order to figure out. And the golden nonce is what they call it. And in order to do that, you take on a little bit of risk because you might not be the one who is able to crack it, but the rewards are certainly worth it. Now the rewards go down, especially on platforms like Bitcoin, where it's halved every 4 years. But the idea there is those miners, in being able to crack that algorithm, essentially add that layer of security where it's verified, and then when it's added to the block, it's unchangeable. So that's sort of without miners, there is no blockchain. Now, I say that with a caveat because proof of stake, where instead of waiting for miners to be able to do all these verifications, and in that process, the fees go up. And that's where you have orphan blocks, where 2 blocks come in, 2 blocks of data. So when you swipe your credit card and you want to purchase something, if you do that at the same time as someone else and you both want to be added to the blockchain, only one of you is going to be able to go in first. So that causes a little bit of a bottleneck. And what that's created is a scenario where everyone is focused on how do we offer much greater scalability? How do we speed this up a lot more? And that's where staking came in, which is you are running, in essence, similar to a miner. It's called a validator, except you are holding collateral. So you are saying, I'm going to verify this transaction, and I'm holding all of this collateral as a means of offering insurance. That this can be added to the chain.
Thank you for sharing. I just want to make sure that everybody who's on the call today are aware that these are, I guess, higher level conversations that we're having, and it does not need to be anywhere near this complex. So that's just to make it very clear that these are high level conversations. Now, when we talk about splits, I'm not sure if that's the term that they use. They have a chain of, they want to split Ethereum, or what's that term called? when there's
Forks.
forks? That's the one I
So
was looking for.
yeah,
Talk us through that and why they do that, because it's always been fascinating to me. Is that when they,
yeah.
their education about a thing can be approved, or what is it about?
Well, it comes down to human nature. All of these blockchains are created by people, and
Hmm.
people disagree.
Yeah.
And those disagreements create these forks where you have one group who either wants to maintain status quo while the other group wants to progress in a different direction. And that has caused variations of many of the big cryptos that we know. So you have Ethereum Classic versus Ethereum.
Yeah.
And what's been interesting, actually, as we talk about this, is Ethereum Classic. One of the main points that they wanted to stick to was having limited supply, following the model of Bitcoin. But what that's created is a scenario where at any point, if 51% of all of the Ethereum Classic are owned by one or a group of individuals, that group owns the blockchain.
Yeah.
And that is devastating. So that's a scenario that Ethereum Classic is going through right now, and hopefully they figure that out. But at the end of the day, it comes down to developers disagreeing on where either the blockchain technology itself or the currency is going and what the next steps are. And that's where these groups then split off and they either create their own entity or they move the current project forward.
I spend a lot of time in Discord listening to communications through different channels, and
Yep.
many of which are cryptocurrency focused. That's where they communicate most of their
Do they have
activities.
strong opinions?
Oh, to say the least. Now, I want to keep it clear that for everybody that this is higher level conversation. And the next question is about whales in the market. Those who come in and they want to buy up big. Who are some of the players that are considered whales, and are they going to be a threat to longevity?
So many of the big whales, are institutional type of players. The one who's making the most noise right now is Grayscale.
Hmm.
Grayscale is, aside from buying TV commercials here in the U.S., which is wild in and of itself,
Hmm.
especially because I can't run a Google ad saying the word cryptocurrency, but they can run TV commercials across all of our networks. That's another story for
Oh
another
yeah.
day.
Uh-huh.
Uh, they're constantly making the news. It's hard to go a week or two without hearing them putting in another 100, 150, $200 million. But the whales and the reason that they have these very funny memes and these images of them are just for the most part they're collective groups. You do have some individuals who have very substantial holdings,
Hmm.
but they have these very large positions in the currencies. Ripple, Ethereum,
Yeah.
Bitcoin are
Yeah.
the three big ones where when they decide to profit take and they sell large positions, it creates a lot of volatility. Now, in securities markets, you have similar types of groups. However, those groups are generally not as active. You would have, for instance, for Apple. Apple is part of a pension fund, retirement, IRAs.
Yeah.
There's so many college savings where if Citibank decided to, their analysts decided to offload 2 million shares of Apple, it might cause a blip, but it's not going to cause a 10% volatility. And that's really where crypto is unique. And I think you mentioned before, you drew a parallel to currency and foreign exchange.
Hmm.
And the term Forex is a financial investment vehicle that professional traders generally get involved in.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because with crypto being so volatile, the average person, if you're going to hold you're going to buy Bitcoin, you're going to put it, in your either your hot wallet, which is your internet connected, exactly, or your Trezor, and you're going to sit for 3-4 years. The activity of a whale is not really going to impact you dramatically, especially for the larger mega caps. But if you're trying to day trade, which is very dangerous, then you need to start looking at indicators like volume and starting to monitor different candlesticks and moving averages. And the influence that they have in this market is, and it might be arguable to say, is more dramatic than what you might see in general securities.
I've been watching, the market, the daily trading in these Discord channels, and buy now, sell now, grab this, don't buy that, and buy this amount. It was just overwhelming. It's such a rapid pace that things change here. It's scary.
And everyone's an advisor. It's the Yelp for crypto investors. Everyone is Warren Buffett, and on our site, we are not an advisory. We're adding some really interesting investing tools so that you can do your own research, and we certainly always advise to do your own research, make your own decisions. But we try to avoid any type of talk around Chainlink is the next Ethereum. Get in Chainlink today, because we don't own a crystal ball. And having seen several, bull runs and pullbacks, things can change in an instant.
Moment by moment.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
Oh, so it's channels like Discord, like Telegram are very interesting. They're entertaining. You follow some really good people. It's certainly worth checking out, but certainly be careful of the Carl icons of Discord.
Let's call them personalities.
Exactly.
Edmund, this has just been such a wonderful call. It's certainly a topic that clearly I'm interested in, and your knowledge and depth and breadth of experience in this game is just phenomenal. Thank you so very much for sharing. Now, when people are coming to you and they want to get involved and learn more directly from you, I guess, where are they going to go and what are they going to see when they get there? Yeah,
so come to Dchained.com. So it's the letter D, Chained.com. And when you come to our site, you're going to have an opportunity to put in your email, and you'll get a short mini course that I created. It's a 3-part series just to give you a little bit of a primer and let you know what to expect on the site. We have a very flexible membership. It's a $1 trial, and I put all over the site. If you're not satisfied after 30 days, I'll give you your $1 back. Our focus here is to invite new people into this space. Having seen crypto over the last 7 years since I got involved, it's somewhat intimidating and it's unapproachable, and we want to try to remove those barriers because it's somewhat been a little bit of a country club for tech geeks like myself. And we want to open those doors a little bit, and we want to make it more accessible, more inclusive. And, the idea is if you're a smarter investor, you'll be a better investor. And we want to make sure that we're arming, visitors to our site. We have a wealth of information, giving them, the same level of data, of analysis that we give our paid members, albeit there are a lot of different features that, of course, we save for, our community as well.
Of course. There you go, everybody who's on the call today. I have a personal interest in this. I know that this is something that you can certainly benefit from being involved with as an investor. There's certainly a bit to learn, but it's not overwhelming. It's stuff that you can get involved at dchained.com and work with Edmund and his wonderful team. And if you're looking for this link, you'll find it no matter where you find this post back to Edmund. Edmund, in closing, thank you so very much for having this wonderful conversation with me today on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.